Imagine owing money just for being arrested. That's the reality for millions of Americans.
I was still staying in the homeless shelter, and I remember just thinking, like, I had served my time. Like, why are they still coming after me?
Here's the state saying, well, this belongs to me after you served your time.
In the US, the practice of charging fines and fees to people who go through the criminal legal system happens every day, creating millions of dollars in debt for Americans each year.
When I first started incurring the fees, I wasn't made aware that there would be additional state restitution fees. I thought that it was just going to be the court fees that I incurred. But shortly after my arrest, I found out that I was being charged just for being arrested.
This is Stephanie Jeffcoat, a community organizer with All of Us or None in Orange County, California. She spent 4 years unhoused, shuffling in and out of the criminal legal system, unknowingly piling up debt the whole time.
During that time, I got multiple charges for trespassing, for setting up a tent, for jaywalking, and just for sleeping in areas where the city had a no camping ordinance, and just other charges that come from being homeless.
Within the criminal legal system, people can find themselves trapped in debt in a few ways. One is from owing fees, which can take the form of administrative court costs, public defender compensation, jail operation expenses, civil assessment, or parole and probation costs. People can also end up financially stuck through fines, which are imposed for low-level infractions like misdemeanor offenses and traffic violations.
It's not because the people are just running around town committing these violent crimes. These are just minor offenses that people are getting these fees for.
People can also be reincarcerated for not paying off debt imposed by the criminal legal system in the first place. Incarcerating someone for not being able to pay criminal legal debt was ruled unconstitutional in 1983, but this practice continues due to a legal loophole. Oftentimes, folks don't even know they owe the state money. After getting placed in a shelter for the unhoused, Jeffcoat began to rebuild her life. She got sober after years of living with substance use, got a job, went back to school, and even filed her taxes.
My taxes were intercepted, and I found out that it was due to debt that I had incurred for being arrested. They took $800. To me, it was a lot of money because I was trying to rebuild. I was still staying in the homeless shelter. Between the restitution and the civil assessment fees and the court fees as well, I ended up incurring about $4,000 in debt.
There's scarce evidence that charging people fines and fees keeps the public safer. And because most people who incur criminal legal debt will never be able to pay it off, a considerable amount of fines and fees are never collected.
A lot of these crimes are survival crimes, and so it doesn't matter if a person has fines and fees, they're going to continue to commit them to be able to provide for their basic needs.
Still, states successfully collect billions of dollars in fines and fees each year.
It's this terribly vindictive, cruel practice that has a kind of disproportionate effect on the people who can really least afford yet another barrier to reentry.
This is Alana Bildner, a senior staff attorney at the ACLU of Connecticut. In 2022, the organization filed a lawsuit in U.S. District Court to end prison debt in the state.
For decades, the state has a claim to the money that it is entitled to from a person's prison stay, and it can try to demand that money when people inherit money or try to pass on money to their kids. The state would show up demanding to be paid from a person's prison stay 20 years ago. I saw that a big chunk was being held, and I wasn't sure why.
This is Natasha Tosato, a mother and community activist. In 2017, Tosato's 15-year-old son, Jason Negron, was killed in a police shooting. She received a settlement following a lawsuit against the city where her son was killed. In late 2022, when she was supposed to get the settlement money, the state came after her for $44,000 in prison debt. Tosato had served time in prison 5 years earlier for a nonviolent offense.
We didn't find out until our lawsuit was settled. The city acknowledging that there was something wrong here, we're going to offer you this, and then that same state is the one that's saying, well, you owe us this.
The steep bill she owed the state was due to Connecticut's policy of charging people $249 a day simply for being in prison. The state claimed that it was entitled to take money from Tosato's settlement because it was an inheritance from her son. But for Tosato, that money was the closest she could get to justice for her son's death.
It brings you back to May 9, 2017. And as much as I've tried to heal from that and find, peace in his, smile or his pictures or his stories. Here we are again saying what they did to him was wrong, and now they're doing something else that's wrong. So it's kind of it's definitely opened up some old wounds. I served my time day for day. I work, I pay taxes. I want to not have to feel like I still owe them my life, and now what they said my son's life was worth.
Advocates across the country are pushing for the elimination of fines and fees imposed by the criminal legal system. Some states, like California, have made strides toward ending criminal legal debt. Governor Gavin Newsom signed the Families Over Fees Act in 2020, getting rid of most criminal administrative fees. The state is also considering legislation that would eliminate bench warrants, which punish people for not complying with court orders. While advocates are hopeful about the changes being made in some states, fines and fees continue to keep people stuck in cycles of poverty nationwide.
I think what it really boils down to is a lot of people don't have any hope. And so I think when it comes to people who are in those situations, that we need to really re-examine the impact that fines and fees have on people.
Most people are outraged. So we need to get the word out, and the more people that stand up and are willing to tell their stories, it really makes a difference, because only then can the state wake up to just how harmful and counterproductive these practices are.